Yes, just a few more questions. What advice would you give to aspiring dancers or aspiring sex workers?
Know your hard no's. And like be aware of them going in.
Yeah.
But also like forgive yourself if that changes. If you decide, like when I first started dancing, I was like, I could never dance at a full nude club. And now I love dancing at a full nude club. It's so much more laid back. I'm like, great, I don't have to put my top back on before I put my feet on the floor. Great.
Yeah.
But like knowing your hard boundaries, and having those in mind, and like your values and holding those close to your heart is really important. And yeah, not getting into the mindset that everyone else is your competition. Like, I think that it's so much more rewarding to dance if you have friends in the community.
Camaraderie instead of the cattiness.
And people to talk to about it. Yeah. Because, like, it's hard to talk to, like, civvies about sex work.
For sure. They just don't understand.
They don't get
and
it.
they immediately start judging you.
And even if they're not judging you, like, I have friends who I had, like, voiced to them that I was considering full service work. And even though they're super supportive of me stripping, they were immediately weird about me talking about full service work.
Shut it down.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, whoa, okay, crazy. I'm not going to talk to you about that, babe. And so I think that, having that community is super important. And staying true to yourself.
For sure.
Yeah, don't let the fuckers get you down.
Yeah. I like that. Has, like, dancing affected your romantic or personal relationships at all?
Nah, I don't fuck with people who are anti-sex worker. My current partner is extraordinarily supportive of me dancing and has, like, used other sex working services in the past. Like, they've hired pro doms, and so they're very extremely accepting of it. Their best friend is a full service worker. And I just don't fuck with people who aren't okay with it.
For sure.
It just, that is something that is, like, very morally important to me. Even before I was dancing, and before I was in the industry, I have always, like, I've always been big on talking about, like, sex work is real work, and we need to, make it safe and make that
for sure
something that we speak about. And so I just don't spend time with people who aren't okay with it.
I guess in a way my other question is, because of your work and putting on a show for people and being touched and stuff, but with boundaries, does that affect your want to be touched by your partner?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. So I have a really, like, complicated relationship with, like, sex in general. I've always had, like, a very, like, divorced mindset from sex. It is not something that I require to feel intimacy, and it is not something that I feel is always intimate. I have a very complicated, like, view of my sexuality already. And so in my experience, it doesn't impact my physical relationships, because I do have this, like, kind of compartmentalization already.
For sure. And you can separate.
And for me, sex is not, and, like, that, like, kind of sensuality is not the peak of intimacy. And I very often, I joke all the time that, like, I put on my cosplay to go be my dancer self. And that person is just not who I really am. Like, that's not my real personality. Like, and intimacy to me comes from, like, knowing someone deeply. And so, like, I don't ever feel like there's overlap because they don't really know me.
That makes sense.
I know that it's, like, a very, like, complicated view on it, and a lot of that has to do with, like, gender identity and like, sexual identity for me, because I am a non-binary lesbian. And that is all, like, I love identity politics. I love thinking about that stuff. I love talking about that stuff. And so for me, it's this very, like, clear delineation.
I get you. Okay.
It probably also helps that I'm just not attracted to men.
I can imagine that does help. I can imagine.
Like, aesthetically, I can appreciate an attractive man. sexually, I'm like, I could not be less interested, man.
Oh, that's great. That makes me laugh. Oh my gosh. Okay, can you tell me a little bit about what prep is involved? I know you talked about like exercise and self-care, but like you have to like buy outfits and keep money into your shoes and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot.
Makeup.
It's an investment. I feel like the starting investment is like the hardest part because I wear the same pair of shoes every night.
Yeah.
I don't change my shoes.
Yeah.
I just like I have one pair. I've bought the same pair like 3 times at this point. I like the supportiveness. I like the way they look. I like how it, so that part, I think the initial investment is a lot. And then there's the like, I don't know. When I first started dancing, I was also investing like regularly in a lot of like makeup, skincare, nails, hair. And the longer I've been doing it, the more I realize that that's not really like a necessity.
Yeah.
I wear a wig now.
Yeah.
Like it's so much easier. It stays style.
Yeah.
There's some stuff that's annoying about it. But like, and also like customers don't notice. And I often, like, I found that like my best nights were very often when I felt the least put together.
I have
and
also found that too. It is baffling.
It is, what my best explanation for it is that like they want a fantasy, but they want it to feel accessible and real. And so when you are like too much on a pedestal and too glam and too like more perfect, it feels out of reach. It feels unrealistic to them. And so I think that like what I've noticed is that customers respond really well to someone who feels real,
like a girl next door.
And relatable.
That makes sense. That totally makes sense because I've also had that experience. Okay, my last question is going to be, how has dancing, sex work, stripping inspired you?
It has,
or
made,
it has it at all?
No, it has made me honestly, it's like in some ways like really changed how I perceive like myself as a worker. It's made me become much more self-motivated and much more self-driven, and it's like part of what made me think that I could start doing nails and be self-employed. Because I am self-employed as a dancer, you know, and realizing that like I don't have to work for someone else forever. And that's really changed like my mindset about like my own capabilities in a lot of ways.
Very nice. Very beautiful.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay,
I
bye.
love that.